All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are adopted. Old business, item number 1, EMA video wall. I believe we considered this back in September. It was tabled until now. I think with the general understanding that we were going to cut a check when the time came. Go ahead, Nick.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me back. I'm just back to present this back to you. The county went ahead and I presented the bid. We had 2 bidders. We presented the bid and awarded the bid to Howard Industrial for $141,303. The city's portion of that would be $66,000, which is the breakout 42.5%, 42.5, and 15 from Northport.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions, comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. The item is approved. New business, item number 2, approval of disbursement from District 1 improvement funds. Councilman Wilson.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, I would like to give and support the Tuscaloosa Public Library as they are having an event coming up this month in February by giving them $1,000 toward that event. And I ask that you guys would approve that for me today.
All right.
Motion.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. District 1 Improvement Fund disbursement is approved. Item number 3, approval of disbursement from District 3 Improvement Funds. Councilman Crowe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last few weeks at council, I have mentioned that the Tim Tebow Foundation sponsors for the special needs community a prom called the Night to Shine. And it is going to be held in our community Friday night, on February the 9th, at Church of Tuscaloosa. And I have, and others have tried to help them get volunteers. There are, I think they have to have over 200 volunteers for this event. It is going to be a very great event for our special needs community, but also just for the district. And I would like to pledge $2,000 of my district funds to go toward funding this.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Mr.
Okay.
Crowe, I am a buddy for that night, so thank you.
You're a what?
I'm a buddy. That's
A
what I
buddy?
volunteer.
That's great.
Yeah.
How come I'm not a buddy?
I think it's going to be
You can't.
a really
What
good
is
night.
it?
I think it's going to be
You
fun.
have to dance with somebody.
Oh, man.
I can't dance, I'm sorry.
You got to dance with
I don't know how to
He-
dance.
He's lying. All right, item number 4, 2022A budget revision number 2, Ms. Standridge.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As was presented to you in Projects Committee last week, there were 2 separate project concepts, one for Burrell Odom Park and one for Springbrook Park. If you will recall, I think the mayor sent an email to council requesting the project concepts and then a possible budget revision to fund the planning and engineering and design phase for those 2 projects. Those 2 projects design phase now will come in totals exactly within the mayor's proposed amount of $700,000. The breakdown is on the detail in your packet. That will go towards $300,000 towards Springbrook Park for design, and then $400,000 to Burrell Odom Park for design. Both contracts will come in under that, and we should be able to move forward with possible budgeting for the construction of those in the capital plan in April.
Okay, gentlemen.
So moved.
I've got some questions. Mr. Crowe, anything?
Second.
Okay. And I have no problem with moving forward on either of these. I am further down the road, and Mayor, I don't know if it'll be you or Eric, but at some point, as we continue accumulating parks, from a budget standpoint, the discussion and decision making on, I'm assuming that's involving additional staff and resources and money.
Yes, sir. Currently, the parks that we do have online through our projects, such as Carlton, Snow Heavy, a couple of others, I can't remember off the top of my head. The council actually budgeted personnel through our Elevate O&M, the 15% of Elevate that we set aside. What we will likely request is to continue that with Burrell Odom Park and Springbrook Park. We've had discussions with Para.
Although those don't have that same 15% tail attached to them, right?
Well,
The O&M?
The entire Elevate project and Elevate fund, 15% of all revenues generated from Elevate go to O&M. And so
Okay,
the
I'm sorry, so
operations and maintenance.
this is money left over out of, not spent, not required, out of an Elevate project.
Not just a project, I'm talking about 15% of Elevate, the 1 cent sales.
But I mean,
tax.
the 350s we're approving now for the engineering studies.
Oh, that was money from the 2022A capital.
So that's
Bond
not
issue.
Elevate
That
funds,
is,
right?
the 22A
Nobody's
is
making the
funded
payment.
through Elevate.
It is
It's
Elevate.
making the payment.
It is Elevate. Those were
All right,
Elevate.
so,
It's making the payment.
so the 15% O&M tail
Mortgage.
does come with those projects.
Yes. And where we want to go, not all of them, because for example, Sokol Park, Bowers Park, some of the other major parks in the para portfolio, the city does not want to be part of that operation and maintenance because that's not in what we do. Where we're interested in the operation and maintenance or in things that really align with what our right-of-way crews do, what we already do at Government Plaza, Shelby Park, Riverwalk, et cetera. That's where we can be a real strength to para and to us. The other thing too is with our lighting system and with our camera system, it's easier for us just to go and maintain all that as well, so that not only are we creating a high quality of life environment, we're creating a safer environment. For para, this has a benefit of freeing up dollars that they were having to apply to maintenance that they can then use throughout their system on other projects. We presented part of this in the budget back in August. We will continue to update you on that. Para provides us a cost estimate of what they say it costs to take care of a park on an annual basis, and we can provide you that information as well, and certainly anything else that you would like to see with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So there's a motion and a second on the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item is approved. Item number 5, request for waiver of building permit fees for Hope Point Crisis Center Phase 2. Ms. Jones?
Good afternoon, council, mayor.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Indian Rivers Behavioral Health is requesting a waiver of the building permit fees for the Phase 2 build portion of the Hope Point Crisis Center at 1401 Greensboro Avenue, so that we can use those funds to put back into ligature-resistant furniture and fixtures that have to be a part of that facility. Ligature-resistant being furniture and fixtures that you can't put a rope or a string or something around that you could hang yourself with. We have found out through this journey how quite expensive that type of furniture is. So I recommend it as a side business if everybody's thinking about it.
Okay, building permit. Anything else you want to make us aware of?
No, sir, that was the only request for today.
Okay. Is there building permits? Who owns those?
Well, it would be ultimately it comes through revenue, but UD is the one who issues the building permits. And I don't know if we have anyone from UD here, but I can fill you in because Ashley and I have been the one to talk about this. We have denied the initial request, not necessarily because of the merits, just because anytime we waive a waiver of a business license or building permit, we believe should take council action, because the only times we've ever done that have been for either an economic development project or for DCH about a year and a half ago when they were building their parking. So we felt as a matter of practice, it needs to come to the council to waive that fee and not be done administratively. So that is why we have no opposition to it. But we would like a standard if this is going to be something we want to, the council wants to entertain moving forward. This is only the second time I can ever remember this request, and they both, besides economic development projects. That's correct. In the last,
DCH and what else?
DCH and Indian Rivers. That's only 2 times I
43,
remember
I
in
think.
18 years.
Gentlemen, any questions, comments of the presenter?
Mr. Chair, just reading this, document, I would like to know what is the cost of the fees that you're asking? to be
Approximately
waived?
$50,000. So the fees are assessed by a percentage of the total cost of the project. And so the assessment will be around $50,000 for this part of the build, which is a second building on the same property to expand at an additional 10,000 square feet, it'll make a total of 12 beds for the short stay for crisis stabilization.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Mr. Crowe?
Yeah, just,
You have that pregnant look on your face?
is that what it is?
I mean, the pregnant question look.
Walt, in the past, outside of an economic development project or something, right? I'm trying to remember, there hadn't been many since we've been on the council that we have given up. Nothing, but what kind of projects did the council in the past kind of say we would waive this?
Really, just any sort of commercial project or anything that, I can't remember any industrial development has been tied to that or not. Normally in the past, the way that we've approached this is to just give money during agency funding. So in other words, we wouldn't waive the building permit, we would just provide the, $50,000 appropriation to do it. So this is unique for us. DCH was the first, this is the second. DCH was a little bit easier because they're a governmental body that you appoint members to. So that's,
We are as well, sir.
So, well, there you go. And so there may be some similarities. Not that,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Cara.
So I was just gonna say that the general process that we've done, to Mayor Maddox's point previously, DCH is the only waiver of building permits that we have ever, executed. The only other times that we have, in essence, waived building permits is when we have done a rebate action through an incentive development agreement. And what that really does is that tells the developer that you have to pay us first. You have to come up with the cash, you have to pay your building permit. We will immediately turn around and rebate you that payment. It is in conjunction with the entire development. And so the understanding that the development is gonna put in, $10 million worth of development of an investment into this area that will then generate property tax revenue or sales tax revenue or any other tax revenue possibly into the future. We will then rebate them the building permit amount after they have paid us, because there's a certain amount for a building permit that we have to then send to the state also. And so the only way that we've ever really done this not for DCH. DCH was a special situation. Any other way we've done it is in a rebate action for a commercial developer.
And let me clarify my comments about being a government. If DCH is owned by the city of Tuscaloosa, the city of Northport, Tuscaloosa, we don't own Indian Rivers. You're an agency that's funded through the state of Alabama Department of Mental Health. So that was a more seamless transition. Oh, it's not that we're not opposed to this at all. We're just saying this is kind of new territory for us.
Public-private entity, that's what I read on the.
Well, you have a lot of agencies that are funded by the state, the city, who may say, they would like to waiver the building permit fee. I would rather do, if we want to go in that direction, I would just rather give the appropriation on the merits. But we're past that point because y'all are, how far, I know talking to Mr. Patterson, y'all are far into this. How far are you in the space too?
So we're probably about a month into, but part of that was the destruction of an older property, or older building on that property, and then so they haven't actually started the build of that second building, but I mean it's underway.
Ms. Jones, I know when we came to see y'all, I don't know, it's been a few months ago, we were kind of getting overviews. Your funding comes from the Department of Mental Health, correct? The majority of it?
The majority of it,
The
yes.
majority of it does?
The majority.
So where does the rest of your money come from? Some from where else?
So we have it's pretty complicated. We have small grants, like the city of Tuscaloosa does give us an annual small grant. The county commission of Tuscaloosa does as well. We have the same from the county commission from Bibb and Pickens for specialty programs like drug court, or court diversion or jail diversion programs. About 60% of our funding comes from our contract with the Alabama Department of Mental Health. And then a large portion of it is how we can bill for our services to like Medicaid. So Medicaid becomes the second largest revenue source where we bill our services as a fee-for-service model to Medicaid, Alabama State Medicaid.
When she mentions funding from the city, are we currently giving them some agency funding? I can't remember. Are we giving you,
50,000 a year?
how much?
I think it's right around 38, about 38,000. So we have, you know, as was in our presentation when we met, we have several programs, and we actually allocate that funding to support those programs, like our mental health programs or court diversion programs, our homeless program.
I think if again, if we want to move forward, that is perfectly, you know, I think that is, it has merit, and what they do for those that are in crisis is without question. I would like us maybe to look at establishing some sort of criteria moving forward, or aligning it with our funding cycles.
What I was gonna say is echoing your points is look at, I mean, I think one of the things that we need to try to be as consistent as a city, because I think if you start going down a certain road, you're opening yourself up for something. I personally would like to see something either we come up with a policy, Mr. Chairman, about how we would look at this in the future, but also maybe we look at that on the agency funding side as some type of reimbursement to help them offset part of that cost in the next, I guess, in the next budget. I mean, Carly, we'd have to talk about that, because it's.
And one thing that I would like to, you know, from the city's financial perspective, building permit revenue line has suffered greatly over the last 3 years, especially. That is a budget line item that we have not met budget on for 3 years. We have continued to decrease it every year. We did meet budget on it this last year after I think we cut it about 10% prior year. So, you know, for us to be aware, there have been instances, if we're going to set policy, our main policy for essentially waiving the building permit is to rebate it to them. I would, from an accounting standpoint, if we're going to set policy and procedure, I would greatly encourage the council to consider a rebate opportunity instead of a pure waiver opportunity. We found some problems when it came to DCH, again, from a financial standpoint, that we could probably work to remedy on the back end, but it just helps a lot when it's a rebate situation instead of a waiver.
Ms. Jones, based on the new facility that you've got, that you guys are doing right now, do you expect that you would ask the city or ask this council for more support based on services that are being provided, based on things? Would you see that in the next budget coming up from us to probably ask for more money?
Possibly so, yes, sir. You know, to show the structure of how we're using the funding from the legislature for the crisis center, we've had to be strategic and good stewards in that the capital expenses for the crisis center, we spread out over a 3-year plan, so for 3 fiscal years, because we have to balance the capital expense needs versus the operating expenses, mostly payroll. So we've had to set aside monies outside of our annual grant in each fiscal year to pay for those capital expenses like the building. So it's a 3-year project for us that we divided that up and being able to bring that property not only to its functional fruition, but also to stay in line with the look that we want to have for a property like that, to serve the citizens of Tuscaloosa and be in line with the DROD as well as far as its appearance. So
Let me ask you this, because frankly, when I got, by the way, Mr. Patterson's a great advocate for you. He reached out and said, what do we need to do to make this happen like this? You know, so that's why we're here today, and frankly, I haven't had a lot of time to think about this issue.
absolutely.
How soon do you need it? I mean, I know you need to get the building permit, but if the building permit could be paid and we could look at committing to helping you with the project, maybe to offset the cost of the building permit, but do it via either via a rebate or an appropriation. I mean, do you need it right now? If you
No,
don't,
sir, absolutely not. And I understand we're trying to do things and setting a precedent and then wanted to go back and say, we need to set a policy. So I greatly understand the position that you're in. If we need to do that, that's absolutely understandable. We're trying to be the best stewards we can of the limited financial resources that community mental health centers are able to afford so that we can turn around and pour that back into our community. So absolutely, we understand the position that you're in. We can absolutely wait on that. Again, we have set aside funds to do this project, but you know, every way we can bring teams together to help make this a possibility is the direction that we're going. So it's just being good stewards of the resources that we have.
Okay. With regard to what's on the table at hand, because of what we've got coming up, I'm gonna need to start moving forward on that. I'm talking about the next two items. Is there, for right now, is there a motion on the issue on the table right now? Okay, there's not a motion, so we're gonna move on. Now, I think the conversation that you were probing, Mayor, maybe can take place.
That's the direction we probably ought to go, Walt.
yeah. And again, it's my fault. I should have put more time into this.
No,
Again,
I
that's
understand.
That's on me. I will reach out to you and get an appointment this week, and maybe we can, I've got a couple ideas I want to run by our team to see, maybe, as I sat here and we thought about it, I think there may be a way we can have something to present to the council that wouldn't set a precedent.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll be glad to entertain it, after y'all have talked it through and got something to present. Thank you, Karen.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 6, FY 2023 revenue presentation. Can I have a drum roll? Mayor, you gonna present?
Yeah, it's good news, so I want to present it. If it was bad news, I'd have Carly. I'd make it. No, it is really, really good news, and I think it's something that just kind of, if you left here with any message from this presentation, the fact that we budget conservatively continues to help us provide at the end of the year what I believe will be solid surpluses that we can then reinvest back into the infrastructure and facilities and vehicles, et cetera, across what we're responsible for. So you should be very proud of that. So I'm just going to jump right in because I know it's important to get an idea of where we ended the fiscal year. These are unaudited numbers, so there might be some fluctuation, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of discrepancy from what is being presented today. When you look at the major general fund revenues that we have in the city, sales tax obviously makes up a lion's share of that, followed by business license, property tax, our share of the countywide sales tax. And as I always point out, you take our share of the countywide sales tax, SSUT, and sales tax. That's almost an accurate reflection of where the economy is moving. And then if you want to take that a step further, business licenses are a year in the rearview mirror as well. So it gives you a sense of how our economy is doing. But then you see the other revenue line items that are in there. And as Ms. Sanders mentioned earlier, building permits make up a very small percentage. But certainly we think as the economy rebounds, maybe as the Fed begins stair-stepping down rates, hopefully, in the future, that number will increase. So when you look at the overall general fund major revenues, we collected, again, unaudited at 106% of budget. So that's a very good, healthy increase. Again, that is because this council has been very conservative when it budgets its revenues. And so that creates the opportunities then to collect overall at 106% of budget. So when you take a look at the lines here, the gray is 21, the black is 22, the gold is 23. You can see that when it comes to sales tax, we finished above prior year collections. And so you see the number of 47,196. That's where we ended the year collecting. Your adopted budget is actually 47,264. need very little growth to actually, if we collect what we did, if we collect this year what we collected last year, just a little bit of growth, we should make budget. And right now, 2 months into the 24, I feel very good about that in terms of the revenue collections that I've seen thus far. So overall, in our sales tax, again, higher versus prior year. The use tax, again, you see the gray, black, and then gold line above prior year at 111% of budget.
Well, I'll back up a slide or two. I fell off board. Okay, never mind, I'm back with you.
Okay. So, by the way, and Becky does a great job.
But everything's collected, right? Everything we think,
Yes.
this is what the FY looks like.
This is the entire fiscal 23 year.
All right, and now we're going through audit. We put
Correct.
it together, now we're going through audit. Okay, all right, I'm sorry, keep going.
So, and if you look at the total number on sales tax, we collected about 2.1 million over what we budgeted for fiscal year 23. Use tax, we collected 610,000 above what we budgeted, which was 111% of budget. Under SSUT, better known as the internet tax, it continues to grow, but just remember that's a little bit of a false positive. It's growing at the expense of the traditional sales taxes that you used to collect, but still it is a growth factor, and we collected 1.1 million above what we budgeted for fiscal year 23. Property tax, we were about right on target. We collected 207,000, 101% of budget above prior year, so right on target. And that's always going to be a little easier for us. And it's easy for me to say it's easier, but it's more predictable in terms of budgeting for the city.
When we are budgeting or projecting property tax collections, are we talking with the tax collector and having any advance knowledge of what sort of revaluations might be going on?
A&F does.
So, and Becky, please correct me if I'm wrong. We don't necessarily talk to them during budgeting time, but and it's the tax assessor's office that would basically be giving us projected information. And the tax assessor's office, we talk to them frequently throughout our audit period. And so that really kind of leads our conversation into, when we start in May, what we've talked to them about January-ish during audit period.
Okay.
So under rental tangible tax, this is the big pieces of equipment that you rent. Again, we were up versus prior year, 106% of budget, which in dollars is about nearly 71,000
So, Mr.
for
Mayor,
the prior year.
Mr. Mayor, as we look at the rental tangible tax, are we seeing a growth in renters within particular districts or across the
So-
city?
This is-
How do we determine?
This is just bigger. This is not the rental tax. This is just
This is for equipment.
forklifts.
Yeah, so if you're gonna go, like if you are a person that you're gonna go rent a backhoe to do
Okay,
some
I
like
got you.
backyard projects, it's
Okay.
that kind of
Okay,
thing.
okay, I got
It's
you.
not for like it's not for housing.
Okay, gotcha.
Next is lodging tax. So we were nearly $500,000 above budget, 105% overall budget. I think we can feel good about this. In looking at some of the data in terms of room nights and things like that, there are certain hotels that are just blowing it out of the water, and there's others really outside the downtown area that are not at those same levels. I think it's something for us to watch. I think another thing we're continuing to take a very watchful eye on are your VRBOs, your Airbnbs, and their overall impact on lodging tax as well.
A note in from my board membership on Visit Tuscaloosa, the fill rate, I guess, is only 43% in Tuscaloosa. So of the hotel rooms available, I think we're running around 43% full. The average daily rate gotten for those rooms is going up but it's not like demand is catching up to the supply side right now. The other thing is, I think, and Ms. Standridge, I don't know if they've got it yet or shared it with y'all, but in Visit Tuscaloosa, I'm pretty sure Visit Tuscaloosa is acquiring that service that allows us to see into the game day rental, VRBO, Airbnb thing.
So the state has a contract for all short-term rental reporting as well, and
Oh.
we use this. So, and because it's the state, they make it available for any government to kind of
Okay.
do a back-end viewpoint on all of the Airbnb, VRBO, short-term rental postings that are out there, and we do use that in our audit methodology. So,
That's postings, though. Is that
well,
bookings?
It's postings and bookings and rates and all of that kind of thing. It's all of it. We do use it in our revenue officer audit methodology. However, I will caution everybody. We only have 3 auditors on staff for the entire city, and so short-term rentals alone would take up at least 5 individuals' time just to do that full time. So we do a cursory glance and include it in our audit methodology, but I will say that we could do a lot more.
Okay. I passed that along primarily just because I thought it was insightful. I was not aware of it, and that 43% fill rate kind of caught me aghast.
And the trend, this is a trend nationwide too, still coming back from the post-COVID environment. I think what will be fascinating to see is, do the hotels that, when you look at the occupancy numbers, are struggling, are they going to remake, refresh? It used to be in Tuscaloosa, you didn't have to keep up with the market because it was just going to come to you. Now there's competition.
Now we're seeing there what you used to refer to as the better mousetrap in the student apartment business. If you can build, the next one is a little bit closer with a little nicer amenities, it's getting the fills, and they're coming at the expense of the older, further away ones.
So that's going to be something for us to watch in our budgeting, looking ahead into 25. The dwelling tax that we talk about is important to us. This is the 1%. Remember, we have the mega apartments that are under a 3% dwelling tax, so this is for the 1%. The 1% collected $367,000 above prior year, 110% of budget. So again, I think that shows that the student rentals, and this is mainly driven by student rental, it's still moving forward. And then you see it on the mega apartments as well. When you look year to year, remember there's a half year built into the first year of that calculation. So we really now have a real good baseline of what that should generate. That 3% is earmarked into the public safety fund of the city.
Could you flip back?
Yes.
So of the, let's call it apartment tax rentals, of those that are paying 1%, we're bringing in just over 4 million. Check. And then to the next slide, of those quote mega apartments that are paying 3%, we're bringing just under 2.
But, excuse me, so I understand that 1.9 goes to the public safety fund,
Yes, sir.
but the other one, the 1% is not.
Not the whole,
Yes, sir. The
the whole 1.9.
the whole 1.9.
I thought just the increase.
So the 3% set aside that we
Okay.
do, that is the increase. The per the legislation.
Everybody was paying 1%, right?
Mhm.
Once upon a time, 3 years ago, everybody's paying 1%. We passed to increase those over 200. Is that what it was? To 3%, correct? I thought it was only that increase that got routed directly to public safety, not the entire amount that they had been paying.
It is. It's the two. It's the difference. So
It's
the
it's the new
It's
part.
the full 1.9,
Yeah.
so it is the diff, so.
It's the 2% of the mega development 3%.
Which is
Check.
that, it is that full 1.9
Okay.
that you see on the slide, yes, sir.
Short-term rental, this number, you look at where we were in 21 versus where we are today, 2.5 times the amount. So this number is continuing to climb, and I know our team does what they can in terms of ensuring that we have everyone comply. It's important they comply. I know our hoteliers really drive home the point to all of us that it's important that we have everyone comply, so.
I think that's a very meaningful slide. And I wish President Tyner were in here, because you know how he gets lit up about short-term rentals. But I think we all need to bear in mind that for all the angst and hate and discontent and changes to our sort of neighborhood DNA involved with short-term rental, it's a $200,000 piece of the pie, right? Have I got that right?
It's almost 700,000.
Almost 700,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, the increase was 200, yeah. Still,
We just need to keep winning.
700 is.
We need to win football.
Yeah, I'll withdraw part of that.
It's still though overall, it's, I mean, if you compare that to what we collect
To
on
the
lodging
11 million
tax.
on lodging.
But it is increasing, and I think that shows you the compliance is increasing. Certainly our attention to it has been ever increasing, so that is a positive sign. Business licenses, which I mentioned earlier, is a good rearview mirror look of the economy. So we were up prior year 106% of budget. In terms of real dollars, that was about 1.4 million, or a little over 1.4 million for business licenses. And I think the council has done a real good job in budgeting, because right now we project collections for fiscal 23 at 23.9 million. Our budget for 24 is 23.8 million. So again, you know, that's a little less than prior year budgeting, which, you know, hopefully will bear fruit next year in our budget surplus. Building permits that we touched on earlier, again, you can see the difference between 21, 22, and 23. There's no doubt that the interest rate hikes that really began hitting home in 22 and 23 have had an impact on this. I think though too, it's going to be more than that. We're not going to see the large types of commercial developments that we saw in the past. The economy's changing. The days of mega malls are over. As we know it, it's just going to be different. And so certainly the days of indoor malls are at least over. So you're not going to have these large building projects. So I think we may be finding our level water in terms of building permits moving forward. Just the overall change in our economy. Our share of the countywide sales tax, 107% of budget, and this is our share, our 19% of the 3-cent countywide sales tax, and that was 1.38 million over budget. And so we collected 22.1 million last year. We're budgeting 22.2 million this year. So almost prior year budgeting when it comes to that. Again, extremely strong. Elevate is not, you're not going to see really many differences because it's sales and use tax. Again, over budget collections. You can see the numbers here. And then when you look at use tax. So overall, Mr. Chairman, a very good revenue picture for us. The surplus transfer will be hopefully very healthy. We won't know that number probably to the end of March.
Yes, sir. Towards the end of March.
So they're very reluctant in ever giving that number out to me.
I thought that you were about to say your prediction.
But I predict 11.2 million. We'll see if we come close to that. Right now, our revenues over our budgeted, our fiscal 23 revenues over budget is projected at 8.4 million.
And how are our expenses?
So departmental expenses, we are just under budget, for the expense side, I think by like, what did you say, 1.8 million total?
Close, yeah.
I would say that we do not expect any audit findings and audit adjustments. However, you just never know. And so because we feel very, very solidly about our revenue methodology, obviously on the expense side, that's where the auditors really kind of dig in. So I'm reluctant to say what our expense really is going to end up being. But as of right now, we're sitting just under budget for outlay on the expense side.
When do the auditors finish up?
They should by the middle of March. That's why, we tell the mayor that we should have surplus by towards the end of March. So they'll end their field work. They should get us financial statement drafts probably around March, 15th to 20th. And so we should be able to get him surplus immediately after that.
And so you'd be unreluctant to say then?
As soon as I have financial statement drafts, we can stand up here solidly and tell you.
All right.
They
We
learned
look,
from
we look
Mike
forward
Wright
to it.
very well. So and Mike still won't tell me about 1998. I mean, so it's a secret. So anyway, they do a good job, and for really good reason. They don't ever want to put a number out there, and then if there was an audit issue that needed to be corrected or amended. So I understand why they do it. I just give them a hard time about it. But I do want to say they do an amazing job. Our Treasury Department is doing a fantastic job. I think you'll be very pleased when we start getting into the updates for this current fiscal year. I also, again, want to commend this council. Thank you for not being reckless in your budgeting. I see a lot of local governments go out there and budget 5, 6, 7, 8% growth rates that are not sustainable. That's fake money. That's never going to be there. And we've never done that. And I appreciate your discipline, because it's not always the easiest thing, but I really appreciate it.
And I will second that during budget times. When I'm talking to all of my colleagues throughout the Big Ten, they always ask what our growth rate assignments are, and I always say 0. And the lowest that they will get, Auburn is probably the next closest conservative budgeter, and usually do about 2.5%, 3% of built-in growth in their budgeting, and we don't. We're the only ones that don't.
So that's the report. Now I know we're running a little bit late, and we'll do our best to get you on time. But this is actually even better news. So we start off with good news. It's Good News Tuesday. We're going to turn it into great news. Mr. Busby, and I think wisely, asked for a Savings Center update. So I'm going to ask Ms. Howard to take one and then pass it along. We have several things to share with you. I'm going to take the first and then turn it over to the experts, Brant and Audrey. Again, this is one of those situations where I get to take credit for somebody else's fantastic work. And I'm really proud of what our Savings Center team has been doing, from the foundation side, from the staffing level side. So this is really one of those things that I hope you'll be proud of as well. So the first thing that I want to draw your attention to is the 11 by 17, the mega sheet, as we call it in our office. And so the first column that you see that says total pledge amount, those are the numbers represent an individual donor or a corporate donor. Then you see the amount that was pledged. And then as you begin moving from left to right on the sheet, you see the fiscal years listed out. And then underneath, you see the amount broken out of the pledge. So if you go all the way to the bottom of the second column under total pledge amount, you see that we have thus far pledged to the Savings Center $15.596 million. The original goal when we went into this project was $10 million. And Ms. Sabin and Brant and Audrey, they deserve the credit for what they've been doing on the capital fundraising side. Now, in addition to that, and we don't count this number in, there's the additional $25 million from the state. So out of a $100 million project, there's $40 million provided from other sources, which this project, I believe, will be transformational over the next generations really in Tuscaloosa. So if you look at fiscal 23, you see at the bottom that we anticipate 2.6 million to be collected. 24, 2.62, 25, 2.54, and then you can go on as you move from left to right.
So the 23 is already collected and remitted to us, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the slight difference in the amount pledged and the amount received is just
Straight
some
cash.
odds and ends pieces that came
Donations.
in unpledged.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the last thing, and I'm going to turn it over to the experts in this, I've provided you a copy of a council resolution authorizing the pledge and donation agreement with the Savings Center Foundation for the capital campaign. And then Brant has included one sheeter just on some talking points she'll probably review with you. And then the last is a letter between Ms. Standridge and Ms. Lepish. As you know, Brant actually works for the Savings Center Foundation. Although we do consider her ours, she is with the Savings Center Foundation, and again does a fantastic job. So Audrey and Brant, I'm going to turn it over to you, and where I've misspoken, please correct me.
No, thanks, Mayor. Yes, really, we're just here to answer any questions about this agreement. As you know, we went into this agreement where we have this capital campaign. It's going to mostly span over 10 years. Most of our donations are actually pledged over 5, with exception, you'll see that on the larger sheet. And some of those exceptions were the larger gifts, and we want to make them work. You know, sometimes when somebody's offering you a lot of money, you make it work.
Do we have plans in the next few months to spend any of this 2.6 million?
So that would be a question.
Yes,
sir,
that's our
absolutely not.
question.
Yes,
That's
So
our
we are-
money now.
I give it to y'all.
Yeah.
we are required and bound by the agreement to only spend that money on Savings Center construction. So until we turn
That was
dirt,
my question.
no sir, until we turn dirt, it is completely set aside and we're not touching it.
So are we earning anything on that 2 million?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, Mayor Maddox was very kind in kind of bragging on our treasury team. Our treasury team does an amazing job at working interest rates to our, absolute best. And they are using that amount of money in their, I don't mean to say game, but in their treasury, investment opportunities as well. So we will be earning the greatest interest that we can on that.
It's really, we're getting to a very exciting time. I know Audrey met recently with Ms. Terry. The designs hopefully will be coming together, and we'll have something to show the council pretty soon. We're getting to a point where demolition of the existing building should at least take place this year, and potentially even construction beginning this year. Again, there's a tight timeline we're going to have to meet. But we're really getting closer and closer to the time where ground's going to get broken, and this facility is going to begin rising up out of the ground in 25. And so with an opening date, end of 26, I think.
Construction end of 26, opening 27.
So it is moving forward, and it's really, again, I've been part of a lot of exciting things with the city: tornado recovery, AMP, river walks, all that. This is the most exciting thing I've ever worked on, and there's so many partners into this. This is going to be such a difference maker in what is being proposed, and I really hope, if you haven't, I hope you'll go see Audrey and Brant for an update on what's being talked about within this facility. It'll be unlike anything. I don't know. Maybe you might find it in a place like Philadelphia. Maybe the Thomas. What was it? Which the one you showed me in Philadelphia? Why am I losing?
Philadelphia, Mississippi? Or?
No, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Franklin Institute. It is going to be something exceptional for our children, this community, and really with the state's partnership, our entire region. And I know I'm talking long on this, and I apologize, but the reason why getting the state to come in with us for our region is important is we need workforce. And the workforce of tomorrow is going to be STEM related. And so if all of our region is, we hear a lot of people talk about regionalism. This project is regionalism at its best, because that's who it's going to be for, not only our students, but this entire region. And the impacts for our workforce over the next 15, 20, 30 years is going to be tremendous for our community. So, and Ms. Terry and those two are the ones to thank, and the Saban family. Any updates from your meeting with Ms. Saban that you want to share?
So I went down and met them in Florida, and they, first of all, are loving retirement. And we actually had our design team come down and meet with her. Malcolm Holzman came from New York, and Neil Davis came from Birmingham, and we met at her house and showed her updated designs, and we're in the process of working through those, and she was really excited. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
And we were emailing today, and to say she's appreciative of everyone's leadership at this table is an understatement. So we all realize this is something unique and phenomenal, and so she and her family are deeply appreciative of the leadership that you guys have shown, and hopefully this here reinforces there's broad support for it. If you have any questions, again, I think we do our best to protect. Most donors do not want their names attached into this, so we do. But if you have any questions, please talk to Brand about it.
Gentlemen, questions, thoughts, comments?
Just one note on this, it is anticipated, right? So I don't.
What's anticipated?
The number for next year. And
Oh,
the
yeah,
next
for
year
next year,
payout.
okay.
Yes, sir. So I just wanted
Could
to
be
make
more,
that
could be
note.
less.
It could be more, it could be less.
You got a hedge, Grant.
So yeah, I just wanted to make
But
that
that's
note.
the expectation,
That,
based on, things could
Absolutely.
change on a pledge.
absolutely.
Someone could pay it off early or need
And
one
that's
more
really
time.
where the
Yeah.
movement comes, not in whether they're going to complete the pledge or not. Sometimes the movement comes on when they're going to pay. And if it goes from September to October, we know that shifts the little bracket it goes in this sheet. So just wanted to make that note that that's the anticipated payout.
And even though they have retired, the message is they are more committed to this project than ever. So we have their full support and commitment.
Well, I think the first and most overriding comment is thank you and well done.
Thank you.
It's always nice to see 2.6 million coming in from private sources. So thank you and well done. Mr. Holmes, I've got some mechanics questions about some of the agreements, but we can deal with those offline. That again,
And Mr. Hobbs in my office is really the
right,
expert.
is that all right? I'll talk with him.
We're happy to meet individually and explain anything, but thank y'all for your support of this project.
Yeah,
It really
thank
is
you for
tremendous.
trusting
Yes.
us with
We know
this.
it's a big lift,
Terrific.
but it's special.
Ms. Buck, I think I understand that a Tuscaloosa County pole vault record, which had been in the Busby family since May of 1975, no longer
You let him
stands.
do that knowing we had this presentation coming?
That's the real reason why we're here today.
By an inch,
Why don't
by an
you go ahead
inch,
and
correct?
My son, William Num Num, he broke the record at 14.7 2 weekends ago. So
1 inch.
by 1 inch, he broke the record, but it was pretty exciting.
And
About
Congratulations.
time, we don't have to listen to that anymore.
Congratulations on both counts. Thank y'all for coming in. Mayor, thanks for having it put together for us. And Ms. Standridge and crew, thank you for the review on the revenues and all you do. Any other things to come before the council, the
Motion
committee?
to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay.